There's a moment in every man's life when he realizes something uncomfortable. For years, he hasn't really been speaking for himself. He's been speaking to avoid conflict, speaking to keep people happy, speaking to stay easygoing, agreeable, and non-problematic, and somewhere along the way, he forgot what he actually wants. This realization doesn't usually hit you in a dramatic way. It creeps in slowly. Maybe it shows up when someone asks what you want for dinner, and you answer, "Whatever you want is fine." Maybe it shows up when you're deciding weekend plans with your partner, and instead of saying what you genuinely enjoy, you say, "I don't mind whatever you prefer." Or maybe it shows up at work, when you take on tasks you don't want because you don't want to seem difficult at first. These feel like small acts of kindness, but over years, they turn into something else. You become a man who moves around other people's preferences, never your own. You stop being a participant in your own life. You become an audience member watching yourself from the outside. And no one teaches us how dangerous that can be. Today's video isn't about dating tricks, psychology hacks, or manipulating anyone. It's about something deeper. How simple words can help you reclaim your voice and rebuild the kind of presence that earns natural respect, trust, and attraction. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because you finally live in a way that comes from honesty and clarity. Those two words are, I want. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But if you spent years holding back your preferences, going with the flow, or letting others lead your life, these two words can feel like learning how to speak again. Today, I want to take you through the journey of how these words can change the way people see you, and more importantly, how they change the way you see yourself, not in a controlling, aggressive way, not in an arrogant, demanding way, but in the quiet, grounded, mature way that Stoicism teaches, the calm strength of a man who knows what he wants, and says it with clarity, not force. Let's start with a story many men don't want to admit is about them. When a man forgets his own voice. When I was younger, I thought being well-liked was the key to a good life. If people approved of me, things would fall into place. If I didn't upset anyone, everything would stay peaceful. So I became the man who said yes, the man who didn't argue. The man who let others choose, the man who blended in. People liked me, sure, but I slowly realized something painful. People like the version of you that makes their life easier, not the version of you that is fully alive. I remember one moment clearly. Someone asked me where I wanted to go for dinner. A simple question, but instead of answering honestly, I smiled and said, "I'm good with anything." And I remember the look on their face. Not gratitude, not appreciation. It was almost disinterest. As if I had disappeared in the moment I refused to show who I was. That was the day I finally questioned something I had never asked myself. Why do I avoid saying what I want? The honest answers weren't flattering. I didn't want people to reject my opinion. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to look selfish. I didn't want to cause conflict. I didn't believe my preferences mattered. I wasn't used to leading. I felt safer being invisible. I worried that asking for what I wanted would make people pull away. And here's the truth I wish I knew sooner. When you hide what you want, you don't avoid rejection, you create a slow rejection of yourself. People sense when you are unclear. People sense when you won't lead. People sense when you're afraid to take up space. And nothing dissolves attraction, respect, or emotional connection faster than a man who is present, physically but absent internally. Stoicism is often misunderstood as suppressing emotions, but that's not what the Stoics taught. What they taught was responsibility. Clarity. Direction. Choosing your response instead of living on autopilot. Saying I want is not about desire. It's about direction. When a man has no direction, People feel it. When a man has direction, people trust him. And that brings us to the heart of today's message. The power of I want and why most men are afraid of it. I want is not just a phrase. It is a declaration of clarity. It says, I know myself. I am grounded in my decisions. I am not afraid of my desires. I am willing to lead without dominating. I am not hiding anymore. This is the kind of energy people, especially women, respond to naturally, not because it's a trick, but because it is rare. Most men communicate from fear. A few men communicate from control. But a man who communicates from clarity, that is different. That is attractive, not because of the words, but because of the inner state behind them. A woman can feel when you're saying something to please her. She can feel when you're saying something to avoid conflict, and she can feel when you say something from a place of certainty, not ego. Let's look at some examples instead of, I don't know. What do you want to do? Try. I want to take you to the new Italian place on Friday. Simple, clear, relaxed. Instead of, maybe we could hang out sometime. If you want, try. I want to see you again. Let's set a day that works for both of us. Instead of, it's up to you. Try. I want to spend the afternoon with you. Let's make it happen. These aren't lines, they're expressions of clarity. And clarity is attractive because it creates safety. A man who knows what he wants is easier to trust. He is easier to understand. He is easier to follow, not because he demands it, but because he leads himself first. This is what most men don't realize. Attraction isn't created by tricks, it's created by presence. I want helps you show up, not as a character or a performer, but as a man who has direction and self-respect. But as with everything powerful, there is a danger in misuse. So let's talk about that. Confidence vs arrogance. The line you must never cross. A lot of men hear advice like this and run straight into the extremes. They start saying I want with a tone that feels demanding. They confuse clarity with aggression. They replace insecurity with ego. That is not leadership. That is a maturity wearing confidence as a mask. Arrogance says, I want this, so you have to follow. Confidence says, I know what I want, and I welcome your choice. Arrogance pressures. Confidence invites. Arrogance closes the space. Confidence creates space. This is where Stoicism becomes powerful. Because Stoic strength is not loud. It's calm. Measured. Grounded. Stoic man does not need to dominate. He does not need to demand. He does not need to convince anyone of his worth. He simply lives it. When you say I want, you say it with a level voice, a relaxed face, no rush, no tension, no agenda, no fear, no force. You are not pushing someone. You're revealing yourself. And if they don't want the same thing, you let it be. You don't negotiate for acceptance. You don't beg for agreement. You don't twist yourself into a shape that is easier for someone else to love. Because a man who respects his own desires never has to manipulate anyone else's. How I want changes your relationship is the part that surprises most men. Using I want doesn't just affect your romantic life. It improves every relationship round you. Number one, it builds respect. People trust men who speak honestly. People respect men who have preferences. People follow men who offer direction. Number two, it reduces passive resentment. Most men who never express what they want eventually become resentful, not because others wrong them, but because they silence themselves. I want cuts that resentment off at the root. Number three, it makes communication easier. Clarity removes confusion. People know where they stand with you, Decisions become smoother. Plans become easier. Boundaries become natural. Number 4. It helps you understand yourself when you start saying I want. You face an unexpected challenge. Sometimes you don't actually know you've suppressed your wants for so long that they became boy. This is where the real work begins, because saying I want forces you to reconnect with a part of yourself you've avoided. Your truth. Not the polite version. Not the filtered version. Not the socially acceptable version. Your real truth. And when you reconnect with that, your entire life becomes clearer. How I want changes your relationship as the part that surprises most men. Using I want doesn't just affect your romantic life. It improves every relationship round you. Number 1. It builds respect. People trust men who speak honestly. People respect men who have preferences. People follow men who offer direction. Number 2. It reduces passive resentment. Most men who never express what they want eventually become resentful, not because others wrong them, but because they silenced themselves. I want cuts that resentment off at the root. Number 3. It makes communication easier. Clarity removes confusion. People know where they stand with you. Decisions become smoother. Plans become easier. Boundaries become natural. Number 4. It helps you understand yourself when you start saying I want. You face an unexpected challenge. Sometimes you don't actually know you've suppressed your wants for so long that they became boy. This is where the real work begins, because saying I want forces you to reconnect with a part of yourself you've avoided. Your truth. Not the polite version. Not the filtered version. Not the socially acceptable version. Your real truth. And when you reconnect with that, your entire life becomes clearer. When I want goes beyond dating a man's deeper path, it's easy to think this is just about women. It's not. This is about how you show up in your career, your friendships, your daily habits, your long-term goals, your health, your personal standards, your future. Because a man who can say I want in his relationships can also say I want a healthier lifestyle. I want a better job. I want to stop living in survival mode. I want to build something meaningful. I want a life that reflects who I really am. I want to stop being afraid to speak. This is why those 2 words matter. They are the doorway to clarity. The 7-day challenge Stoic version. Forget dating tricks. Forget memorizing lines. For the next 7 days, I want you to practice saying I want in small, everyday situations. Nothing dramatic. Nothing intense. Just simple clarity. Examples. I want the blue one. I want to relax tonight. I want a quiet morning. I want to leave at 6. I want to eat something light. I want to take a walk. Notice what happens. Notice how people react. Notice how you feel internally. Notice how your posture changes. Notice how your voice sounds different. Notice how your mind becomes clearer. Small clarity builds big confidence. And that confidence builds a life where you no longer move around others, you move with purpose. Final message. Stoic. Calm. Emotionally grounded. There's nothing childish or selfish about knowing what you want. It's the foundation of self-respect, direction, masculine steadiness, and emotional integrity. The men who lose themselves are not the ones who fail, but the ones who stop speaking their truth. And the men who gain the most in life are not the ones who shout for attention, but the ones who speak clearly, calmly, and honestly. So today, I want you to remember one thing. Your wants matter not because they should control the world, but because they reflect who you are inside. Speak them quietly. Speak them steadily. Speak them without fear, not to get a reaction, but because a man who hides his desires also hides his life. and you deserve to live yours fully. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like the video so it reaches more men who need it. And if you want more content about clarity, masculinity, boundaries, and calm strength, subscribe to StoicCraft. Before you go, share this with me. What is one thing you finally want to say I want to in your own life? Your answer might be the first honest step of your next chapter.